February the 10th, 1933. The Führer gave a fantastic speech with a very sharply worded challenge to the communists. At the end, he drifted into wonderful, truly incredible pathos, concluding his oration with the word Amen. It seemed so natural that everyone was captivated and deeply moved. It was filled with such power and faith, was so novel and courageous, and had such power and stature that nothing from the past bears comparison with it. February the 20th, 1933. I saw the film of the Führer's speech at the Sports Palace. The footage worked very well. It will prove indispensable to us as a propaganda tool. This film will be shown wherever the Führer cannot make speeches. Its power comes above all from the coherence and harmony of word, facial expression, and gesture. Now meetings are becoming a real pleasure. We have a new subject that grips us all. We have enthusiasm, energy, and absolute commitment for our cause. We have audiences that respond passionately. We can speak from the heart, and we no longer need to spare our enemies' feelings. For the election, we're generating large amounts of money, and this will put an end to all our financial problems. I set the propaganda machinery in motion, and an hour later, the printing presses were chattering away. February the 21st, 1933. Our propaganda is considered to be exemplary, not just by the German press, but by the international press too. We have acquired so much expertise in this field during previous election campaigns that we can overcome our opponents. We frighten them, and they hardly dare utter a word. Now we will show what the apparatus can achieve if you know how to use it.
Hail Trump! Hail our people! Hail victory! No one will honor us for losing gracefully. No one mourns the great crimes committed against us. For us, it is conquer or die. The mainstream media, or perhaps we should refer to them in the original German, Lügenpresse. It's not just that they are leftist and cucks. It's not just that many are genuinely stupid. Indeed, one wonders if these people are people at all. Or instead soulless Gollum, animated by some dark power to repeat whatever talking point John Oliver stated the night before. To be white is to be a striver, a crusader, an explorer, and a conqueror. We build, we produce, we go upward. And we recognize the central lie of American race relations. We don't exploit other groups. We don't gain anything from their presence. They need us and not the other way around. Within the very blood in our veins as children of the sun lies the potential for greatness. That is the great struggle we are called to. We are not meant to live in shame and weakness and disgrace. We were not meant to beg for moral validation from some of the most despicable creatures to ever populate the planet. We were meant to overcome all of it, because that is natural and normal for us. The press has clearly decided to double down and wage war against the legitimacy of Trump and the continued existence of white America. But they are really opening up the door for us. America was, until this past generation, a white country designed for ourselves and our posterity. It is our creation. It is our inheritance. And it belongs to us.
the 15th of March 2020 at about 11:12 p.m. Central Standard Time, I take this opportunity to make a personal message and to record a personal position and opinion on the events that have been taking place currently in the United States of America and in the world. In particular, I wish to express to my fellow citizens of the United States of America and to my fellow citizens of the world that in the United States of America, I am a registered Republican. I have voted mostly Republican, and that we did vote for Donald Trump to be the nominee for the presidency of the United States of America in 2016, and we did vote for Donald Trump in the general election. It was our expectation, and we did believe that Trump was being genuine when he said that he was going to focus on the United States of America first and on the ordinary working citizens of the United States of America first, and that he was going to bring the United States sons and daughters whom have been working all over the world on the upkeep of the global empire, and that he was going to withdraw from the expansion of the empire and the subjugation of foreign peoples. By then, the forces of the United States of America had been in Afghanistan, a country made up of hills and mountains where people wear sandals and eat goat meat. And yet, the United States Army had been unable to defeat or suppress the Taliban and had lied to us about the number of casualties that we had been encountering in that part of the world. And then there was the issue of trade, which for the most part we had agreed with Trump upon with regards to the way that China had been conducting itself. And so we felt that it was not so much China's fault, but the fault of global capitalism and the capitalist companies in the West, whom in search of cheap labor and maximum profit had taken away all of the means of production from the Western economies and repositioned them in China, and changing the entire global supply chain to be primarily dependent on the nations of China, Vietnam, and India. Today, the majority of the goods that the consumers in the West depend on are made in China. Our medicines are made in India and in China, and we do not know anything about the quality and the reliability of these medicines. But our major pharmaceutical firms, in the interest of maximum profits, have decided that that's where they wanted to set up production. During the month and the last month of the last decade, of the second decade of the 21st century, we were notified that a virus had taken hold in China. They said ground zero was in Wuhan, China, a major manufacturing center and a major port of export for the nation of China. China is a superpower, a world power like the United States, on par with the colonial powers of Europe. And those who claim to be superpowers, those who claim to control the world and to lead the world, have a certain responsibility towards the world and towards the peoples of the world. And when this virus broke out in China, the nation of China was being ridiculed by the leadership of the United States of America, including President Trump and many of the Western countries. Now it is said, and we have a theory now. We have two theories. One of the theories we have is that there is this animal, and at this present time, let me find the name of it for you. It is called a pangolin. It is a helpless animal that can only protect itself from a predator by rolling up in a ball. And I believe that we are told that the Chinese are fond of eating that animal. We also know that the Chinese and many of the Asian cultures, having very large populations and having been very poor in the past, have had to eat whatever they can and whatever they could. So many of the things of the creation they consume, from rats to lizards to mosquitoes to locusts to snakes to bats, you name it, the bears, the tigers, the tiger pinny swine. And so one of the theories that came about is that it is possible that because conservation is failing, that nature decide on its own to implement its own defensive mechanism, and that the coronavirus and the strain called COVID-19 was in fact created by one of these animals to teach a lesson to the human population. The second theory is that the COVID-19 virus was developed in a laboratory and was deployed against the nation of China as part of a biological attack. A biological attack aimed to slow down the rapid economic growth of China. So this is the second theory, that the United States of America, in conjunction with the State of Israel, the Mossad and the CIA, collectively and without thinking thoroughly of the interconnectivity and the global nature and the speed with which people travel and cross boundaries in today's age, decided to deploy this biological attack against the nation of China. And one of the reasons that this theory is being passed around is because when this virus showed up in China, the very leader of the free world, Donald John Trump, instead of collaborating with the Chinese people, instead of sending help, and instead of seeking to find out what is the problem and to look at neutralizing the problem, was in fact ridiculing China. And during several news conferences, we hear Donald Trump mention that China was on the verge of becoming the largest economy in the world. China was on the verge of overtaking the United States as the largest economy in the world. So then arose the theory, did China become the recipient of a biological attack in order to freeze and to neutralize its trade and to
the ability to waive the requirements of
what
a
you call the
3-day
gross
hospital
domestic
stay prior to
product,
admission to a
to
nursing
reduce the
home
gross
if they-
domestic product of
the
China,
authority to waive the rules
and to
into
reverse the
hospitals,
imbalance
ability
of
to bring
trade
additional
between
physicians
China
on board,
and the
or
Western
obtain
nations. And
needed
if you go
office
and look
space.
at
They can
Trump's
do as they want. They can do what they
news
constitute.
conferences, until the news
They know what they
conference
have
he
to
had
do.
on last
They
Friday,
don't have
and
a
today is the
problem
15th, so
getting it done.
Friday was the
The authority
13th
to waive rules
of
that severely
March,
restrict
and Trump
how
had a news
hospitals can
conference, and
care
at
for
that news
patients within a
conference,
hospital
Trump
itself,
had all the people
ensures
that
the
we have
emergency
always told
capacity can
people.
be quickly
We tell
established.
people all the time, the US
We will
military,
remove or
the
eliminate every
police, the
obstacle
National
necessary to
Guard,
deliver our
they do
people
not come to help
care
you.
that they
They do
need
not bring medical help.
and that they're entitled to.
They do
No
not bring
resource will be spared,
anything
nothing
but
whatsoever.
death and
10 days ago, I
destruction.
brought together
That is
CEOs
what
of
they have been
commercial
trained to do.
labs at the
That
White
is what
House
they are
and
trained
directed
to
them to
do.
immediately
And
begin
when
working
somebody
to
say they have
systematically
deployed the
increase
National Guard,
the
like
availability
Governor
of tests.
Cuomo in New Rochelle, New
Other
York, what
countries
it
have
means
called
that
us
is
and
he
worked with
is
us, and they're
looking to impose a
doing
state of
similar things
siege,
or will be
a
doing similar
state of,
things as a result of that
emergency. They
action.
have
Today,
already
we're
declared a
announcing
state of national
a new partnership
emergency.
with
They
private
have never
sector to
said they don't
vastly
want people
increase
to
and
assemble.
accelerate our
Now they say they
capacity
don't
to
want more
test
than
for the
50 people to
coronavirus.
assemble. So
We
that
want to
means
make
that
sure
they want to ban
those
all
who
kind
need
of
a test can get
rallies,
a test
all
very
kind of public
safely,
assembly,
quickly, and
and
conveniently. We
also
don't
that
want
has an
people to take the
implication for
test
the election, an
if
implication
we
for the
feel
Democratic
that they
primaries,
shouldn't be
and we'll
doing it.
touch on that if we have time
We don't want
later.
everyone
But
running around
everything
taking
is
only to
heading
have
towards the
such
imposition
symptoms.
of martial law.
Using federal
There's no
emergency
easier
authorities,
way
the
to
FDA
impose
approved a new
martial
test
law
for the
than to
virus.
do
We
it
did
under the
this within hours
disguise
after
that we have
receiving
a
the
threat
application from
to the
Roche,
public health
a
and to the
process
public
that would normally
safety.
take weeks.
We
We
take
therefore expect
this
up to 500,000 additional
virus,
tests will be available
we take
early
this
next week.
pandemic very
We'll be
seriously.
announcing locations probably
We
on
take
Sunday
it
night.
very, very
I
seriously.
want to thank Roche,
But what
great
we are
company, for their
upset
incredible
about,
work. I'd also
and
like to
what we
thank
want to
Thermo Fisher,
awaken the
the
people
FDA's
about, and what we
lawyers,
want to say
hopefully
as
authorizing their
Republicans,
application
and as
within
we have
24
looked
hours. It's
at the
going very quickly. It's going
abdication
very
of the
quickly,
leadership of the rest of the
which would bring
Republican Party,
additionally
we think it's
1.4
time for
million
Mitt
tests on
Romney to
board
get out of
next
the
week,
way, for Mitch
and 5
McConnell to
million
get
more
out
a
of the
month. I
way, for
count on
Lindsey Graham to
doing
get
that.
out of the way,
At
for
the same
Chuck
time, there
Schumer
have
to
been
get out of the way,
discussions with
and for
pharmacies and
all the
retailers
other
to make
puppets who are in
drive-through
Washington,
tests available in the
and all those
critical
who
locations
have
identified by
abdicated their
public health
responsibilities
professionals.
of
The
leadership,
goal is for
allowing
individuals
Donald
to
Trump
be able to
to
drive up
perform
and
like a buffoon and
be
like a
swabbed
clown,
without
and to
having
take
to leave
over
your
the
car.
Republican
I want to
Party
thank Google.
and to turn
Google
it
is
into
helping to
something that is
develop a website.
analogous
It's going to
into a
be
cult, where
very
many
quickly done,
people have become scared of him,
unlike
and
websites
many
in the
people are
past,
now
to determine
pandering
whether
to
a
him.
test is warranted and
Even
to
the
facilitate
gentleman in
testing
the House
at a
during
nearby convenient
the
location.
impeachment
We have many, many locations
never
behind
met
us, by the
Trump,
way.
don't know
We
Trump,
cover
sings Trump
this country and
praises,
large parts of the world, by
and
the way.
as
We're not
long
supposed to
as
talk
you
about the
sing
world
his
right now,
praises,
but we
he's
cover
going to
very,
promote you
very
and put you on a
formally our country,
pedestal until you say
of course, in
something
virtually every
that he
location.
disagrees with.
Google has
So on the one
1,700
hand, we
engineers working on
believe
this
that the
and making
animals are
tremendous
taking
progress.
revenge.
Our overriding
On the
goal
other
is to stop the
hand,
spread of the
we
virus and
see
to help all
evidence
Americans
that
who
the
have
Mossad
been
and the
impacted by
CIA
this. Again,
may
we
be
don't want everybody
engaged in a
taking this test. It's
biological
totally
attack on
unnecessary.
China without have
This will
considering
pass.
the
This will
blowback.
pass through, and
The
we're
blowback
going to be
is that we live
even
in an
stronger for it.
interconnected
We've
world.
learned a lot,
Wuhan is
tremendous
a
amount,
center of
and
trade,
learned. I want
and
to
that
thank
people from all
Deborah
parts
Birx,
of
and
the
I'm going to ask
world
her maybe to
have
come up and
traveled,
say a
been
few words as
traveling to
to
Wuhan.
what's happening.
It is
Dr.
also difficult for
Birx
us
has
to
been
believe
highly
that the
respected
Asian
person
peoples,
I've gotten to
many
know
of
very well over
whom
the last
their
6
civilization
days,
have been there longer than
and
ours, longer than the
what we've done is
United
we've built
States,
something that
longer
was
than the
very
state of
old, very
Israel.
old-fashioned,
And they have
somewhat obsolete,
consumed these
certainly
types of
obsolete when it comes to
food,
the kind of
the
numbers that we're
wild
talking about.
meat,
Dr. Birx,
the
please.
snakes, the lizards, the ants, the
Thank you, Mr.
bats,
President.
the
It's a
bees,
pleasure to be here with
you
all
name
of
it,
you.
the
I think
deer,
at the beginning
the
of this
tiger
epidemic,
penis, the
HHS
rhino
or
horn,
CDC
the
proactively
shark
developed an
fins.
assay
They are
built on
depleting the
existing
population of
flu
shots
surveillance
in
system.
the world
That
for
surveillance
shot
system was
films.
then converted to diagnostic.
And we certainly would like to
But last
believe
Tuesday,
that
seeing
the
spread of
animals of
virus
the
around the
world
globe,
are the
President
ones that
realized
had
that our current approach to
devised
testing was
such
inadequate to
an
meet the needs of the
unimaginable revenge
He asked for an entire
among
overhaul
and
of the
for the
testing
people.
approach.
We would really like to
He
believe
immediately
that
called the
theory
private sector laboratories
more
to the
than
White
any
House,
other
as noted,
theory in
and
the
charged
world.
them with developing a high-throughput quality
But
platform
what
that
we are
could meet the
upset
needs of the
about,
American public.
whether or not
We are
it is the
grateful to LabCorp and
animals,
Quest for taking
whether
up
or
the
not
charge
it is
immediately
a
after the meeting,
CIA and a
and within
Mossad operation,
72 hours, bringing additional
what
testing
is really
access to
concerning us
specific
is to have
outbreak
looked
areas
at
of
President
Washington
Trump
State and California
and the
and now
leadership
across
of the
the country.
United States
We are also very
from
grateful to the
January up
university's
until
large hospital
Friday the
systems that
13th
took
of
up the charge
March,
to develop their own quality
ridiculing
tests
the
made
people of
available by
China,
new FDA
ridiculing
guidance.
the leadership
This
of
has resulted in
China,
expanded testing across New York,
degrading
California,
the
Washington,
people's
Colorado,
ability
and
to
you see sometimes those
control
drive-through
and
options
to
that have been made available
neutralize
through these
this
high-throughput
pandemic.
options. Following the meeting
And
last
then
week,
going
major commercial
before the
laboratory and
citizens
independent
of the
diagnostic
United
companies
States
took immediate
and the
action
world
to adopt
and
and develop new
announcing
testing systems.
repeatedly that the
Last night, the
United States
initial
of
company,
America
Roche, received
is
FDA,
the
FDA
most
approval, moving from
organized, the
request
most
to
capable,
development
the
to approval
smartest,
in record
the
time.
most prepared
This innovative
to
approach
deal with the
centered fully on
challenges
unleashing the power
of the
of the private sector,
coronavirus of
focusing on providing
COVID-19.
convenient testing to hundreds of
And then on
thousands
the
of Americans
13th,
within short
Trump
turnaround
holds a
times.
press
In
conference.
less than 2 weeks
A
together,
press conference which any
we have
one of
developed a
us who are
solution that
citizens
we
of the
believe will
United
meet the
States
future needs
have to
testing needs
understand
of
that the
America.
United States government,
I understand how
the
difficult
United
this has
States
been.
military
I was part of
does
the
not have
HIV
any
AIDS
food
response in the
supplies for
80s.
us. They don't have
We
any
knew
medicines
from
for
first
us.
finding cases
All
in
they have
1981
is guns
to
and
almost
bullets
1985
and shiny missiles
to have a
and
test.
drones. And
Took us
when they are
another
deployed,
11
they're going to
years
be
to
deployed
have effective
to
testing.
make sure that we
It is
stay in
because of the
prison
lessons
in
learned
our
from that we
homes.
were able to mobilize and bring those individuals that
Now,
were key to
at
the
that
immediate
news
response
conference,
to this response.
Trump had all
I
the people
understand that a lot
who
of this
control the food,
behind-the-scenes action over
the
the
people who
last couple of
control the
weeks
medicine,
was invisible to the press
Target,
and the American people.
Costco,
But this
Walmart,
intense effort has not only
Sam's,
resulted in innovative
HEB,
solutions, but an
CVS,
automated, high-throughput
Walgreens.
system bringing the
So
availability of
when
these
the
quality
pandemic
coronavirus
hits,
testing to the American
you
people
cannot
at
look
unprecedented
for
speed.
U.S. military truck
Finally, I want
to
you to
bring
know in South
aid.
Korea,
You cannot
did
look
have
for
large
U.S.
number of
military
tests available
truck
over
to
the
bring
last several
medicine.
weeks.
It has to
Their
be a truck
positivity
from
rate is
Target.
between 3
It
and
has to be a
4%.
truck from
With
Walmart.
LabCorp
It
and
has to be a
Quest
truck
expanded
from
testing,
Kroger.
their
It has to be a
positivity
truck
rate is
from
between 1 and
CVS
2%.
or one of
So we
those
want to
main
also announce
big
this new
grocery
approach to testing.
chain in the
It
United
will
States
start
of
with a
America.
screening website
My fellow citizens,
facilitated by Google,
our
where
government
clients and
has
patients
lied
and
to
people of
us.
interest can go,
Our
fill out a
government keep
screening
telling
questionnaire,
us how
move
exceptional
down
we
for
are as a
symptoms or risk
society
factors, yes,
and how we are the greatest
moving down
society
this
on
and being
earth.
told where the drive-through
And yet,
options will
I
be
can
for
tell you
them to
personally,
receive.
as we speak tonight,
The labs will then
that
move to
so
the
many of the
high-throughput
hospitals go
automated
tomorrow
machines
morning
to be able to
and call
provide results
HCA,
in 24
the
to 36
biggest
hours. That
privately
is the intent
held
of this approach. We have seen it
group
work.
of
It's in our
hospitals
own
in the
United
world.
States, and we want to bring
They
this
control
across
all the
country.
hospitals in the United States and in Britain and in certain parts of Europe. HCA, Healthcare Corporation of
I believe we
America,
have Tony. Do you want to come up? You've become a.
controlled by the
I think
Fritz
everybody out here knows you
family.
pretty well, but Tony's been doing a tremendous job
Thomas
working
Fritz Jr.,
long
Tommy
hours,
Boy,
and you've seen a lot
and
happen,
his
but this has
brother,
been, it's been a
former
great experience,
Senator
and working with you has been terrific. Thank you.
Fritz, who went to the Senate to pass laws so their family can take over
This is an
all the
example
hospitals
of
in the
another
United
example
States.
of what I've
Go
been
to the
referring
major
to
medical
in my
center
discussions
right
with
here in
many of you in the
Texas,
audience
the
as
Texas
a
Medical Center.
proactive, leaning forward, aggressive,
Go to the
trying to
clinics,
stay ahead of the
and you
curve.
will
And what you're
find
seeing
that
now
the
with this
people
order
on the front
is that we're
line,
going to be able to
the
remove the
nurses,
constraints
the
so that people
caregivers,
at the state, the
the
local
first
levels, the individual
responders,
physician, all the way up
they
through
do
the
not
federal
even
government,
have
will
a
have as
basic
many constraints as
mask
possible removed
because
for
all the
them to do
masks,
everything they possibly can
Home
so
Depot
that we
don't
can
have none, Walmart
implement the
don't
things
have
that we've been
none,
talking
Sam's
about.
don't have
The
none,
containment,
Kroger
the
don't have none,
mitigation, so that,
CVS
as I
don't
said
have
many
none,
times, that curve that I referred to that goes
Walgreens
up,
don't have
we
any.
don't want to have that curve. We
And
want to
all this
suppress it
time,
down to
Trump
that
sitting there
formality.
telling you,
And I think what we've done
we're the
today
best,
is something that
we
is
are
gonna be a
ready,
very
we're
important
prepared. And in
element
the
in
news
having us be
conference
successful in
on
doing that.
Friday,
We still have a
you
long
see
way to
him
go.
just standing
There's
there
gonna be
looking
many
at
more
this little
cases,
short
but we'll
old
take
guy
care of
who's
that. And
about
ultimately, as the president said,
77
this
or
will end.
78
But
years
what's
old.
going on here today is
And
the
that
help
little
to
short
end
guy,
sooner than
he
it would
looked
have.
like he
Thank you.
might be of Jewish background. He's a medical doctor, and he keeps sounding the alarm, and he wants to err on the side of caution. And so he's talking about possibly 70 million people in the United States could be exposed or could be infected by what they call it,
We
COVID-19.
got the call yesterday from the White House.
It's
We were here to do our
COVID-19,
part
right?
to help serve the country.
Or the
We know what we're facing.
coronavirus.
That's certainly important to do. We should
In
all
any
be doing that.
case,
So we've been asked to make
the
portions of our
amount
parking
of
lot available
time
in
that the
select
US
locations.
government
Scaling
had
over
press
time as supply
conferences
increases,
from
so that
December
everyone experiences the
to the
drive-through experience
13th of
that the president
March,
described.
in
We'll
which
stay involved
the
and do everything
President
we
of the
can for
United
supply chain to
States
move you to be of assistance. Thank
repeatedly,
you so much.
over and over, said that we are the most prepared country on the face of the earth and we have everything in place. And he was lying
Thank you, Mr. President.
because the supply chain is in China. Our medicines, our insulin is produced in China, is produced in India, and maybe, as President Trump says, he is a genius. He is a natural genius. Maybe if it's the fury of this disease being spread by the Mossad and the CIA, that it was indeed an operation to get
Brian
production back
Target.
to the United States, to get manufacturing back to the United States.
Well, Mr. President, thank
Maybe
you for
now
inviting
we'll
us here
look
today,
at
along
the
with our colleagues
problems
from Walmart,
with the
Walgreens, and our
global
partners at CVS.
chain, the
Normally, you
global
do it
supply
with
chain,
competitors, but today
and we'll see
we're
that we
focused
can
on
no
a
longer
common
just
goal, and
depend on
that's
India
defeating the
and
spread
depend
of
on China.
coronavirus. And we look forward to working with
Maybe
the
the man is a
administration
genius.
to do our fair share
Now the man
to
come out on
alleviate
Friday and
this
he
global
looking so
spread. So
confident,
thank you for including
and
us
he
today.
have his
In the near
vice
term, we're
president
all committed to making
pandering
sure we're
and
keeping our
pretty
stores
much
open
kissing his
to serve
behind,
American
speaking
consumers,
of his
rapidly
greatness
stocking up on
as
household
if he has
essentials,
shown any kind of
food and
leadership
beverage items,
during
including
this
during this time,
crisis.
making sure we
My
run
dear
safe stores
people,
and create an
we were
environment
not
that's safe
supposed to wait
for our team
until the
members and
coronavirus get
businesses to feel
here
supported
for
during
us
this
to
very
be
difficult
prepared
time.
for it.
Thank you for including us.
We do not prepare for war in the time of war. And since 9/11, our government have been lying to us. Our government said that we had to be prepared in case we were attacked by anthrax. They talked to us about the possibility of terrorists, Al Qaeda, ISIS, all the fundamentalist Sunni Islamic groups that are backed by our own government
Quest
could come and stage a biological attack on
Thank
us.
you, Mr. President.
So one would think that in the past 20 years, our country and our government have been prepared for biological warfare and had made the necessary accommodations for people to have basic means to protect themselves from a chemical or biological attack. And coming to find out, we do not have that. We do not have sufficient hospital beds, even now, for just normal illnesses. And they want to lie to us and say that
Rush.
the coronavirus is no different
So from
from
we want
influenza,
to thank the FDA for their rapid
and that it's
approval
only
of
old
our
people
coronavirus test.
that we need to be concerned
We really
about.
appreciate the partnership with the CDC and the FDA.
Will
to
you
get
buy
to market as
that?
fast as possible,
Will you buy that
because
as
it's critical for us
truthful?
to make that available to help patients in
Excuse
need
me.
and working
If
with
you know
laboratories to get it up and going
that
in
the
the near
government
future,
had
which will bring
told
hundreds of
us
thousands of tests
all
available
along they
to
were
patients in
preparing
need
for
in the United States.
biological and chemical war,
And you can do it.
and the citizenry have not been accounted for,
David
we don't
Pierre of
even know if the military
Signify Health.
is fully prepared in terms of having biohazard material, breathing gear.
Provider in the U.S. and we go to the homes of
Now, what if it's true
and through our network
that this disease was spread as an attack on China
and provide
to slow down China's economic growth,
to be where they're needed.
to slow down its GDP so that this year it doesn't outpace
Thank you very much.
the United States as the largest economy of the world?
Changing
And what if it's true that there is an anecdote, and that is why President Trump did not come down with the disease, or the president of Brazil, or Bibi Netanyahu, because the anecdote is in Langley and the anecdote is in Tel Aviv. Additionally, we saw how our government and the Western media has berated the Persian nation of Iran
At LabCorp, we're working
and
every
has
second of
spoken
every
with
day
glee in their
to see what tests
voice.
that we can run.
When your
We're working
neighbor
with
house is on
academic clinical
fire,
centers, with our colleagues at
if
Quest,
China
with
was on
other,
fire, we should be
hospitals
helping
and other
China,
laboratories to
not
do
ridiculing
everything we can
China.
to increase the testing as we move
So
forward.
now
I can tell you,
China
we understand
has
how
come up with
important
its
this is, and we're
methodology
committed to
to
doing
fight this
everything.
biological attack. And now we have to go and ask China, how did you do it and how can you help us? And what if China says no?
Mr. President,
Then we go to
we
Iran
have been focused since the start.
and they boast, they say the Iranian leaders were infected and some of them have died.
We are committed to
And we took pride in making this announcement.
make this work as well.
We took pride in making this announcement, and not until the Prime Minister of Canada,
Bruce Green's
it
team,
was said, was exposed to the virus.
tremendously talented
Not until Tom Hanks and his wife,
Mr. President, thank you for the
it was said, was exposed to the virus. Not until a major member of the NBA, it was said, was exposed to the virus, that the United States of America decide to come clean with the people of the United States of America. Now they tell us they're going to build drive-through testing centers.
I like that. That's good.
Where are these
Also
testing
announcing
kits
the following
coming
emergency
from
executive
overnight
actions today
if
to help our students
we don't
and their
have the
families
manufacturing capabilities
waived
here
interest on all
in the
student
United
loans held by
States?
federal government
We are told that the
agencies
Chinese
until
billionaire,
further notice.
the owner
Thing for
of
a lot of students,
Alibaba,
left in the middle right
himself
now.
has made a donation
Based on the price of
of,
oil,
I
I've
think,
also
$500 million
instructed the
of
Secretary
testing
Energy to
equipment
purchase at a very
and
good price
of
large quantities of crude oil
biohazard
for storage
suits
in the US
to the United States of America
We'll
without
put it right up to
making
the
any
top.
kind of
American
prejudice,
taxpayer
any kind
billions
of
and billions of
rudeness
dollars helping our oil
about it.
industry and making us even further
My
toward that
dear
wonderful goal
citizens
which we
of the
achieved,
world
which nobody thought was
and
possible,
citizens of the
energy
United States of
independence.
America,
It puts us in a position that's
it has
very
become
strong and
obvious
we're
to
buying it at the
us
right price.
that there is something very sinister at play, a global
Not
plot,
even been possible a
a
week ago.
global conspiracy,
The price of oil went down quite a bit.
which we believe the ultimate aim
I'd like to ask
is to
Mike Pence
deprive
say
the
a few
citizens of the United States of America of their civil liberties and of their constitutional rights. We believe that this play is designed towards the cancellation of the 2020 elections, towards interrupting the Democratic Party process to elect a nominee for the national elections. And we have every reason to believe that the elections of 2020 are going to be cancelled. Whenever you can declare someone or a group of people to be a danger to the public health and to the public safety, one can invoke all types of laws to restrict people, and to take away their rights.
And it's not just at the federal level.
When we looked at
Mr.
Trump
President, we've been working with states
at this
across the country. We issued broad
at
guidelines
this
for every American.
last
But this week, at your direction,
public address, this last
specific recommendations from CDC,
press
from
conference
New York,
with all
Washington
the
State, California,
major
Massachusetts, and Florida,
grocers in the United States of America,
with governors around
proving
the
that the
country,
government
Mr.
is
President, you have
powerless. We don't need the
forged
government.
partnership with every
Walmart,
state and every territory in this
Kroger,
country to put the health
and all the other major grocers and Whole Foods and Amazon
People around the country
can
are
run the
looking at how
country
to
without
secure
Trump.
Public and private partnership to address the issue of
They
testing
can run the country
with
without Trump.
particular inspiration.
And as
After you chose me to
Republicans,
lead the White House
we are
fraud task
indicting
force,
the
Mr. President,
leadership
you said, "This
of
is
the
all hands on
Republican
deck."
Party.
And you directed
We
us
are calling to
immediately reach
account
out to the American
Mitch
business and
McConnell.
commercial labs to meet
We are
what
calling
we
to
knew
account
would be
Lindsey
the need
Graham.
for testing
We are
across
calling
the
to
spectrum.
account
And today, with this
Mitt
historic
Romney.
public-private partnership,
We're
we've
even
laid the
calling
foundation to meet that
Chuck
need.
Schumer.
For Americans looking
And
on,
we're saying
by this
we
Sunday
really need a
evening, we'll
clean
be able to give
slate.
specific guidance on a
We need to get rid of all these people who have never had a job, who have made it their life to be in Washington, to be in the Senate, to be in the House of Representatives, and to get rich of raising money to run for a re-election.
so that people can come by and do a drive-by test. Mr. President,
These people went to school, they got a degree in law,
Target and Walgreens.
and
These are
after
companies
that,
are synonymous
they went into
with communities large and
politics,
small, where people
and that
come
became
together,
their job
and now they're
and
gonna
their
come
career.
together to meet the needs of the American
We
people.
know
These
of not
commercial
much
laboratories,
that they have done for
Labcorp,
us.
Quest, and
Tonight
Roche are
we're
just doing an
told
incredible job stepping
that
forward
the
and
Federal Reserve Bank
literally make,
dropped interest rates
hundreds
to
of
0%.
thousands of tests available.
We're
and
told that
processed
President
with
Trump
results in
wants to
patients in the
give
very near future.
a
But it's
payroll
all a result
tax
of
break.
you tasking us with
And we
bringing
want to
together
say to the
not just
average
government
person, and
research,
whomever
but
will hear us and whomever will listen to
across the
us,
country. CDC is testing.
a
But you said,
payroll
Mr. President,
tax
that we wanted
break
to bring all the resources
doesn't do
possible, and
much
that's
for a
what this
worker
partnership really means.
that is making substandard
The news is
wages.
that we have coronavirus
A payroll
cases now in
tax break
46
will not
American
cover
states. And while the risk of
the
serious
week or 2
illness
weeks
of the coronavirus
that
remains
children
low,
are being told they have to
we
stay
want to
out of
encourage every
school
American
when their
practice common
parents
sense,
have to
practice
still
good
go to
hygiene,
work.
go to the CDC's
A
website
payroll
to see
tax
what the
break
guidance is for your community.
is not going to
for the
cover the
American people
fact that the
broadly.
parents will have
And
to
as the
stay home
President
and
said,
possibly lose their
especially
job
important now,
to look
we
after
look
their
after senior
children
citizens with chronic
or to pay their rent.
underlying health conditions. Last week, the
A
President directed the Center for
0%
Medicare
interest rate,
Services to raise the standards
free
at our
money
nursing homes, increase
is
inspections
only for people
at
that
our
already
nursing
have
homes.
money.
And today, we're offering very
Free
specific
money
guidance, which seems
is for
harmless, but
corporations.
we'll articulate
Free money
about
is for
visitations at
people
nursing homes.
who
It's
are
important to remember that they were there for us when we were growing
in the
up.
building business, in real estate, like President Trump and his family and his cohorts.
As we pursued education,
President Trump been pushing
it's time for us to be
for
there
negative
and to recognize that seniors with
negative
chronic health conditions
interest
are the most
rates
vulnerable
in the United States of America. That means
So
the
wash your
bank
hands, use common
has to
sense,
pay you
look after the most vulnerable.
to take money from the bank.
I join you in saying that every American should be proud.
And the average working citizen of the United States is not going to benefit from that.
To millions
Nancy
of
Pelosi is the only mature person in Washington
said many times,
that has demonstrated any type of leadership.
together, we'll put the
And
health
she's
of
the only one who has called for the types of government actions that is going to help
I'd like you to
ordinary people.
take that a step further.
My fellow citizens, as a Republican, I must tell you that I am very disappointed, very ashamed about the members of my party and the way that they allowed someone analogous to Adolf Hitler to hijack the party, to intimidate its leadership. And remember now, Hitler said everything that he was going to do, and he did it. And Trump is showing the same analogies. Trump say he will demonize people from Mexico and Latin America, and he has. Trump said that people that come from the Caribbean and Africa come from shithole countries, and he has done so. Trump said he wouldn't put a ban on travel for people coming from shithole countries, and he has done so. And then this weekend, he come and he tell you that he going to ban travel from
All
Europe.
Americans have a role
He's
to
going to
play
ban
in
travel
this
from
virus.
Europe, and millions of
The most
our
effective weapon
citizens
right now is to limit
who were
the
in
damage to
Europe
our people
had to
in our country
hurriedly change their
slow the
flights
spread of
to
the
try
virus
to get
itself.
back home to the
To
United
estimate
States,
the
just to be
precautions we put
treated
into
like
place
cattle
are critical to overcoming the
when they
virus,
got to
reducing
immigration.
its spread, and
Is
shortening
this
the duration
democracy?
of the
Is this
pandemic,
freedom?
which is what it is.
Or is this the
The
match
CDC has
to
published guidelines
National
on the
Socialism?
coronavirus.
Is this the beginning of the authoritarian rule? Is this the beginning of the giving up of all of our rights under the Constitution of the United States of America? And why isn't ordinary citizens and people speaking up? My dear
Very low.
fellow citizens of humanity, citizens of the United States of America, some of you may think what we are doing here tonight is simple and that no one is going to, but they're going to pay attention. We are probably going to pay a price for exposing the truth about the coronavirus. That A, it most likely is a biological attack. And they are seeing now the extent to which and how a biological attack works. They're experiencing the blowback, and we thought we were insulated in the United States of America, but we are not. We are not. And now our government are telling us that we must exercise social distancing. They are closing down our schools. They are canceling all types of gatherings. When they tell you that they don't want 50 or more people together, that is a political statement. That's not just a social statement. Stop being ignorant. So many of us today are being ignorant about this pandemic. I want to tell you that we had HIV. I want to tell you that we had Ebola. I want to tell you that we had the swine flu. We had the mad cow disease. And in 1918, the influenza killed 700,000 citizens of the United States of America. But they didn't put it in the news. It was suppressed. The only place it was discussed was in Spain. And that's why they call it the Spanish flu. But the Spaniards didn't die. The citizens of the United States of America are the ones who died. So what is the plan? The plan is to take away our freedom. You sat there naively and thought that you were looking at the Chinese people repressing their people, spraying their people with drones, spraying their people with tanks. And you say, oh no, this will never happen here. Oh, we're Americans. We're in a free country. We're in the United States. And Donald Trump, lying Donald Trump. Now, you know, I remember when Clinton was in power and he was being impeached. And I remember the partisans, the crazy ass people who think just because you're a Hamite, you're not a Republican, you're a Democrat. And this crazy man would come in my face, oh, he lied, he lied, he lied. We got to impeach him because he lied, he lied. I mean, how can you be a president if you don't lie? You know, lying is part of becoming a president. So, I mean, the man lied about having fellatio performed on him in his office. What's the big deal? But here is a president that has lied to us repeatedly. He lied about being involved in prostitution. He lied about paying off a prostitute. The only thing he was truthful about, the only thing I can say and give President Trump credit for, is that he said that the women like it when you grab them by the vaginas. And he probably didn't lie about that. And there's some truth to that because a lot of women still voted for him. Because there are a lot of women out there who want to be grabbed by their vaginas. Their husbands are not doing it, their lovers are not doing it, and they don't know how to tell them to do it. And yes, if you're a celebrity and you grab them by their vagina, they ain't gonna tell nobody. So Trump was very truthful about that. And that's why a lot of women voted for him. Because all these were women who like and who desire for them to be grabbed by their vaginas. But other than that, he's talking about how strong we are militarily. We have shiny missiles. We have the best bombs. Bombs alone does not win war. Shiny missiles alone does not win war. If that was true, there would be peace in Afghanistan. There would be democracy in Afghanistan. If that was true, we would have succeeded in overthrowing the Syrian government. If that was true, there would be peace and prosperity and democracy working in Iraq.
Where are you with the House bill? Yesterday we talked
If that was true, we would prevail against Russia in Ukraine, in Georgia, in Armenia, and in Azerbaijan. But we have to go back. We have to remember Dong Ben Phu. We have to remember the Tet Offensive. We have to remember that the Vietnamese who wore sandals and who were rice farmers and who had to defend on the Soviets for military assistance were able to defeat us. Because at the end of the day, even if we go back to the 50s, to the Korean War, so long we have been challenging China. We have a love-hate relationship. And in the Korean War, the Chinese demonstrated what's called a human wave attack. And in a human wave attack, even though your enemy have superior weapons, so long as you have enough people that are willing to die, they will attack that enemy and overwhelm the defense position, because I was told that in the Korean War, so many Chinese soldiers were coming that the machine guns would overheat and blow up. And that's how they were able to push the United States Army back to the 58th or 38th parallel, wherever they decided to divide Korea. Even a country as backward as North Korea built a subway system that doubles as a nuclear bomb shelter in the time of war for its citizens. Our citizens here in the United States of America, we worried about this no good, for nonsense, fake, and I don't want to call them by their real name, but they're puppets, the politicians. They all have, when 9/11 happened, they took George Bush to some hidden place. My friend, if you're a military man and your military come under attack, you're supposed to be at the forefront of leading your troops in the counterattack. You don't go and hide. They have safety places for members of Congress and members of the Senate, but no safety places for doctors, for nurses, for teachers, and for the people that are needed to keep our society running. Our government has lied to us. I believe the crime of President Trump lying about this virus, lying about how prepared we were, and I have no confidence, and you shouldn't have any confidence either, in these so-called drive-up testing centers that all of a sudden going to come into being, and they have 4 million testing kits, but we're a nation of 400 million people.
The system was not designed.
I do not know if those tests are fake tests. And where were they manufactured? Were they manufactured in China? Are they tainted? Who is overseeing quality control for medicines made in China and made in India? My fellow citizens, this pandemic, for all of us and for those of us who survive it, we have to make a change. There must be a change. The leadership of the Republican Party must reclaim control of the Republican Party. Donald Trump is not a leader. Donald Trump is an entertainer. Donald Trump has no vision. The only thing that the Republican Party and Donald Trump have shown that they can do is to cut taxes. They can only cut taxes. So now he wants to cut taxes to create a stimulus. He got interest rates to zero, and it will soon be negative. And you have to ask yourself, how is a zero interest rate going to protect you from the coronavirus? How will a payroll tax credit protect us, you and I, me and you, us, from the coronavirus? There is a plot against the world. There is a plot against humanity that has been engineered by those whom are in control. Some people refer to it as the cabal. People say it's the Freemasons. What I do know is that I've never seen Donald Trump here look so good until his last news conference, the news conference he had on Friday. His hair really looked good. He took time to have it done over. So now they say that suddenly from these people who for over 5,000 years been eating every type of creature on earth, this virus appeared. So let's look at the other theory, that it was the animals, because conservation doesn't appear to be working. The Chinese want to eat everything. They want the rhino hunt. They want the elephant tusk. They have people cutting, killing sharks just for the fins and throwing the shark over. I mean, this is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. And so those societies, if they want to come into the modern age and into the Western way of life, we have to put pressure on them to change their ways. Okay? And if they want to eat snakes, let's bring them to the Everglades so they can clean out the mess they have made with the invasion of the Asian python. Let's bring them to the Everglades so they can clean up the mess they have made with the mixture between the crocodile and the alligator. Let's bring them to Florida so they can eat up all the iguanas that are taking over Florida. Okay? Now there's some good out of people who want to eat certain creatures of the earth. But these open air markets, the diversity of species, some of the species come as far away from South America. They have cats in cages from Africa.
And we don't want people without.
What is the purpose? Are they to be eaten
The test is not.
or are they to be used as
As
pets?
far as the cruise line business.
Then they have an obsession
It's a great
with deer gallbladder, deer penis, and tiger penis wine.
But the cruise line business.
And as we have said before, there are almost 2 billion Chinese people in the world. 100 million Chinese, whether if they die or they die in a war or they die from a virus, it's not going to make a big difference to China. 100 people in the United States will make a big difference to us. China can very easily colonize the United States of America. So we had agreed with Trump on certain things. We had agreed with Trump on trade. But Trump is lying. Trump is lying. Trump is not an independent thinker. Trump is under the influence of someone other than himself. We'd like to say it's Bibi Netanyahu, but it's not just Bibi Netanyahu alone. Okay, we mentioned Iran, and we mentioned how people have been gloating at how Iran's been affected by the virus. Again, this lends support to the theory that the virus is a biological attack. But then you have the blowback. So now you have Italy. And Italy is a Western country, and Italy is considered to be a Western democracy. Now suddenly, the entire nation of Italy, 66 million people, are being told that they are on lockdown, that they cannot get out, they cannot go shopping, tourism has come to a screeching halt. They cannot dine until but so many hours in the day. And I believe even here in the United States, someone called and told me that they were limiting the number of people they are allowing into an H-E-B store at a time. And that I believe Sam's and Walmart similarly are limiting the number of people in the store at a time because, like they said, they want you to have social distancing, that you should only have so many feet between you and the other person, except if you were at DFW last night, or you were at Dulles Airport, or you were at the Washington Airport, all the areas where international flights come in, and you would see our people herd like cattle to get through customs and immigration. So our emergency food supply comes from the major grocers. Our medicines come from China and from India, places where we have no clue about quality control. We have known the Chinese to put fake products in dog food and people food. They're exporting tomato paste that only has 30% tomato in it.
So if you look at the situation,
so our government is failing us. President Trump told us in January. President Trump told us in February, we are the most prepared country on the earth to battle and to defeat the coronavirus. And as I speak to you today, the average hospital in the United States of America, yes, they boast that we got the best health care in the world. They lie. The only people that get the best health care in the United States of America are the super rich. People like George Herbert Walker Bush, who got an extension of 27 years. He lived 27 years longer than the average lifespan of the average person. And we believe, quietly as it's kept, that George Herbert Walker Bush, he didn't really die. He didn't die naturally. He was disconnected.
privilege to work with him
He was
every day.
disconnected. They
So
eventually went in and said, okay, we're going to shut you down. Because he wasn't going to shut down on his own.
If you align
Both he and his wife.
China with the data with South Korea,
Okay?
you can start to see
So these people have access to health care and to services that ordinary citizens do not. And it's not about health insurance. Because even if you have Medicare or Medicaid or private insurance, you are not going to get that level of quality of care. You have to be among the aristocrats, the aristocracy. Okay? So, let me just repeat. The Republican Party is in disarray. It lacks leadership. It lacks people who want to stand up to what's going on. We are moving towards the imposition of martial law, the suspension of the Constitution of the United States of America. We are moving towards the mass imprisonment of peoples in various states, various counties, by the various police and other organizations which since the attack of 2001 have been equipped to suppress the population. Now, there is no terrorist attack now. There is no foreign army coming to attack us. This is a war against the people. This is a war against freedom. This is the opportunity for President Trump to make himself a strong person, a strong man, and to hopefully to hold on to power the way Vladimir Putin is planning to in Russia. So here's the scenario. People cannot assemble. Now it's down to 50 people. There will be no political campaigns. There will be no political rallies. Then they'll say people cannot vote because if you go out to vote, you're a threat to the public safety and a threat to the public health. So the 2020 general elections will be cancelled. Then President Trump will continue to rule under these emergency powers. He can extend it for 4 more years. And then after that, he'll recontest the election because he will say the second 4 years was null and void. It did not count because the country was in a state of siege, a state of national emergency. Many of you will think that this is a, what they call this, a conspiracy theory or conspiracy belief. I am telling you, it is not. I am telling you that I have seen the vision, I have the vision, and I have the facts. And you can look at this video. We are replaying for you over and over the news conference from Friday. We have one version of it where you can hear it live, and we have this overlay version in which we give you our message, which we want you to hear. We want to educate you, and we want you to stop being naive. I've never seen a population of people that are so naive, including some of my closest friends with whom I speak, whom make excuses. We cannot give our government a free pass. We cannot give the president a free pass because the president assured us not once, not twice, not 3 times, but on every occasion that we are the best, we are the most prepared, and that this is not going to have an impact on us. So now that it's having an impact,
will start.
School is being cancelled, colleges are being cancelled, games are being cancelled, baseball is cancelled.
And they know where it came from. We all know
And
where it
you know
came
the
from.
most important thing? Church, worship. Worship has been cancelled. And you see, that's what Hitler did. Hitler got the German people to substitute National Socialism and the Führer as the head of the church and National Socialism
Well, I just think it's a nasty
as the
travesty
religion of
because
the
what we've
country.
done is, and Tony had said
So who's to
numerous
say
times that we've saved
where this is
thousands of
headed?
lives because of the quick closing.
But
On the
what I
same vein,
want to
do
assure
believe that
you,
we have a group of people. I could
and you may
ask
doubt it
perhaps the
now,
administration, but I could perhaps
you
ask
thought you were going to vote in an election.
because, I don't know anything
You
about
thought you were going to vote
you say we
Trump
Oh,
did
out
that. I
of
don't know anything
office.
about it.
You don't know
We're
about
spending,
about
I
the
don't know.
Yeah,
reorganization
many
happening
people
in
thought
Congress.
they would be voting
Perhaps they do that.
Donald
We can
Trump
let
out
people
of
know. It used to be
office,
with a different newspaper
but
that
the
you wrote
election will be
something like that.
cancelled
But this
Okay,
was an or
please
this
go
was
ahead.
and
You're
there'll
doing a
be
great job.
rule
Let me
by
tell you, these
decree.
professionals behind me and these great,
The
incredible doctors and
Congress
business people, the best in the world, and I
will
can say
be
that whether it's
rendered,
retailers or labs
what you
or
call that?
anything you want to say, these are the best
They
in the world. We're
cancel
doing a
them,
great
you know,
job. And we
dissolve.
have 40 people right now, 40.
And
Compare that with other
there'll be no
countries that have
election in
many, many
November.
times that amount. And one of the reasons we
And
have 40 and others
President
have,
Trump
and
will
again, that
rule
number's
for the
going up,
next
just so
4
you understand.
years.
And the number of cases is
Because
very
if
small,
we have to
relatively
believe
speaking.
everything we're
But
being told
he's
about
done a
this
great job
virus,
because
I
we
don't
acted
see how
quickly,
it's
we
going to
acted
be
early,
over in a
and
month
there's
or 2
nothing we
months
could
or
have
3
done that was
months.
better than closing our
With that
borders to
said, I would
highly
like
infected areas.
to
Please go ahead.
wish each and every one of you the best of safety, the best of health, and the best of protection, and do not believe the government. Do not believe the government.
I hope not long,
Do
because it's
not
there now, and it gives
believe
tremendous
the
power
government.
for things that we need. Tremendous power, actually. And the Stafford Act and various other things that we're involved with and have studied and memorized in so many different ways and forms, it gives the kind of power that we need to get rid of this virus. And we're going to do it very quickly. And I hope we won't need it very long, but whatever it takes.
So for now, we still don't know for how long. And something very important I wanted to ask you is like, how do you really think it's essential coordinating with other countries and learning from their lessons that they already suffer the same situation?
Yeah.
Countries, of course, like China and South Korea, but now recently
Sure.
Italy and Spain.
Well,
and
Italy's
how is
having
that
a-
coordination done?
Italy
Thank you
is
so
having
much,
a
Mr.
very, we're in touch with Italy, and you know, it's a country that we love. We have tremendous millions and millions of people origins from Italy, and we're working with them. They're in a very, they're in probably, relatively speaking, the toughest position of all. We're in touch with everybody. We're in touch with, when I say everybody, we're in touch with many of the countries that you know about, that you're writing about, and they're calling us asking for advice. They're asking for the advice of the people behind me. Italy's got a tough situation, but they're really, they have really clamped down, and I think they're going to see some very good results. It's tough what they did. They really took their medicine, but they're going to see some much better results. Yeah, Jeff?
Thank you, sir. With regard to domestic travel, should Americans feel safe, or should Americans at all be traveling to states such as Washington State, New York, and other hotspots within this country? And a follow-up on Brazil. You're asking people who come back from Europe, Americans who are coming back from Europe, to self-quarantine for a couple weeks. You were in a picture with somebody who now has coronavirus from Brazil at Mar-a-Lago. How is that different?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I'm not coming back from someplace.
But you were exposed.
There was somebody that they say has it. I have no idea who he is, but I take pictures, and it lasts for literally seconds. I don't know the gentleman that we're talking about. I have no idea who he is. I haven't seen the picture. I said there's a picture of somebody, but I take sometimes hundreds of pictures a day. And that night I was taking hundreds of pictures, so I just don't know. Now, I did sit with the president for probably 2 hours, but he's tested negative, so that's good.
It's just a matter
Please
of,
go ahead.
and the domestic travel, sir?
Go ahead, please. I would say if you stay home, It's not bad. It's not bad. Now, there are certain parts of the country that are essentially have zero problem. Washington's been very tough, in particular a nursing home. But Washington, the state of Washington has been very tough. It's been a big percentage of, when you talk about the 40 deaths, it's been a big percentage of the deaths, as you know very well. And they all came from a certain area, unfortunately. Please, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Mr. President. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News. You talked this week about the UK doing a good job in tackling coronavirus. In light of the rise in cases, are you changing your mind about that? You also just spoke about possible travel restrictions. Have you discussed when they might be put in place?
Well, in light of the results, as we discussed before, in light of the results, we're going to be looking at it. And I know the task force is looking at it very strongly, Vice President, everybody. It was looking good, but the results have been building up pretty rapidly. So we'll be taking another look at that. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. I want to first follow up on Jeff's question, because the person you were standing next to, whether you know who he is or not, tested positive for coronavirus. Dr. Fauci said this morning, if you stand next to somebody who tested positive, you should self-isolate and get a test. You say your White House doctor is telling you something different. Who should Americans listen to? And my second question
I think they
is,
have to listen to their doctors. And I think they shouldn't be jumping to get the test unless it's necessary. But I think they have to listen to their doctors. And I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen the picture. Somebody said there's a picture with somebody taking a picture with me, but I haven't seen it.
well, doctors have
But I
said you
can
might
tell
have
you,
it even if you don't have symptoms. Are you being selfish by not getting tested and potentially
well, I
exposing?
didn't say I wasn't going to be tested.
Are you going to be?
Most likely, yeah, most
When do
likely.
you think
Not for
that'll
that
happen?
reason, but because I think I will do it anyway.
Will you let us know
Fairly
the
soon.
results?
We're working on that. We're working out a schedule.
My second question, Mr.
You
President,
go ahead,
that was
please.
a follow-up.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of talk about testing. I just want to make sure we're clear, though, because we've been hearing from doctors who say, as of today, they still can't get patients tested who need a test. So as of today, can everyone who a doctor wants to have tested get tested? And if not, when?
Well,
When
that's
will
been
doctors
true for a
be able to-
while, but I'll let Mike, why don't you answer that, Mike, please?
Well, as the President said, and Dr. Fauci has articulated, the nature of our current system where the CDC has samples sent and tests are performed, or state labs perform tests, or in some cases university and hospital labs perform tests, is generally adequate for an infectious disease or for people getting a diagnostic work done. But given the sheer scale of this, the President tasked us with bringing together this extraordinary public and private partnership. Today, by some estimates, when you add all the labs together, and today the President made it possible for every state in the country and their state labs to authorize labs across their state to do coronavirus testing. We're estimating somewhere between 15 and 20,000 tests a day are able to be performed. But very soon, with the program that was announced today, Americans will be able to visit one of the sites closest to them, as described on the website, if they're symptomatic, if the questionnaire indicates it, be able to have a test there, and these incredible companies will process the test and they'll receive that information. But for now, the best advice that we can give for people is to speak to their doctor, as the President just said. And if the doctor indicates that physician, if it's not a university, hospital, or otherwise authorized lab, can contact the state lab. Again, every state lab in the country can perform tests today. But what the President charged us with when I was tasked to take over the White House Coronavirus Task Force was open up tests all across the country. The President said a few days ago that we made it clear that any American that wanted to get a test would be able clinically to get a test. Because I literally heard from the governor of Washington State who said the doctors in Washington State were saying that if you were only mildly symptomatic, they would not order a test. And fortunately, the President directed
1933. The Führer gave a fantastic speech with a very sharply worded challenge to the communists. At the end, he drifted into wonderful, truly incredible pathos, concluding his oration with the word Amen. It seemed so natural that everyone was captivated and deeply moved. It was filled with such power and faith, was so novel and courageous, and had such power and stature that nothing from the past bears comparison with it. February the 20th, 1933. I saw the film of the Führer's speech at the Sports Palace. The footage worked very well. It will prove indispensable to us as a propaganda tool. This film will be shown wherever the Führer cannot make speeches. Its power comes above all from the coherence and harmony of word, facial expression, and gesture. Now meetings are becoming a real pleasure. We have a new subject that grips us all. We have enthusiasm, energy, and absolute commitment for our cause. We have audiences that respond passionately. We can speak from the heart, and we no longer need to spare our enemies' feelings. For the election, we're generating large amounts of money, and this will put an end to all our financial problems. I set the propaganda machinery in motion, and an hour later, the printing presses were chattering away. February the 21st, 1933. Our propaganda is considered to be exemplary, not just by the German press, but by the international press too. We have acquired so much expertise in this field during previous election campaigns that we can overcome our opponents. We frighten them, and they hardly dare utter a word. Now we will show what the apparatus can achieve if you know how to use it.
Swami Vivekananda. Sachin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli. 5 months ago, the United States welcomed your great Prime Minister at a giant football stadium in Texas. And today, India welcomes us at the world's largest cricket stadium right here in Ahmedabad. The life of Prime Minister Modi underscores the limitless promise of this great nation. He started out by his father's side as a chiwala, a tea seller. Prime Minister Modi, you are not just the pride of Gujarat, as the great religious teacher Swami Vivekananda once said. Some of the world's greatest cricket players, from Sachin Tendulkar to Virat Kohli. You are making impressive strides with your exciting Chandrayaan lunar program.
Stormtroopers made other violent gestures. In 1933, together with sympathetic students, they organized public burnings of unsuitable books, particularly those by Jewish authors. Röhm wanted his stormtroopers integrated into the regular German army. The army was horrified.
Die SA lehnte man ab, und zwar wegen ihres Benehmens, wie sie auftraten, wie sie waren. Also die SA wurde allmählich, sie war zum Schluss, also man kann schon beinahe sagen, verhasst, bei den meisten Soldaten auch. Dazu, zu dieser Ablehnung der SA, so ich mal sagen, kam, dass immer deutlicher wurde, nicht nur in der Armee, dass Röhm, also der oberste Chef der SA, danach strebte, die Reichswehr in irgendeiner Form zu vereinnahmen. Er strebte auf den Reichswehrminister hin. Und wollte daraus seine Armee bilden.
Hitler instinctively sympathized with the revolutionary zeal of Röhm and his stormtroopers. But by the summer of 1934, he knew that their power had to be curbed, and not just curbed to please the army. Röhm had made a more dangerous enemy than the army leadership. Heinrich Himmler, ambitious for power himself and still technically working to Röhm in the Nazi hierarchy, plotted his downfall. He concocted a story that Röhm was plotting a coup, and Hitler believed him. On June the 30th, 1934, when Röhm was on holiday in Bavaria, he was arrested and taken to a nearby prison. 2 days later, he was shot. The armed forces were grateful, glad to see Röhm dead and the power of the stormtroopers moderated. To show their gratitude, they volunteered to swear an oath of allegiance to Hitler personally. The man who, now on President Hindenburg's death, was not just Germany's chancellor, but also her head of state.
Ich schwöre bei Gott, diesen heiligen Eid, dass ich dem Führer, des Deutschen Reiches und Volkes, Adolf Hitler,
Somebody was reading and we had to lift our arm and at the very end say, that's my oath.
And how seriously did you and your colleagues take this oath?
Very serious. I mean, a soldier, this accompanied my whole life till the very end. I mean, oath is oath. There's no doubt that I can't break the oath, or otherwise I might commit suicide if I planned something else. But this is very serious, the oath for a soldier.